Just shut up, the stream's starting.
Okay, stream is beginning.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the
Overwatch it's Matt, dumbass Morello.
Push, roll, passive.
Push. I hope they show push.
Sojourn at BlizzCon.
I really want to see how push works and what the map looks like
for Overwatch 2's PvP.
New maps, some of which will be playing today.
Nice.
And we've also been looking at the way PvP is played. It's changed over time on the live game. We'll talk about a lot of the changes that we want to be making and that we're currently making to PvP, but there's one in particular that I want to highlight right now because it's substantial, and I think it has a big impact on the way the entire team approaches PvP on Overwatch 2. And it's also something that we're all really excited about. Overwatch has always been played with 2 teams of 6 players.
Whoa! It's happening!
Overwatch 2 will be played with 2 teams of 5
players. It's happening!
Consisting of 2 support,
5v5?
2 DPS,
it's happening!
And 1 tank.
1 tank.
Right, I mean, my next question was going to be like,
it's happening.
Thing, so we still have a breakdown across the board. It's not completely open. So 1 tank, 2 DPS, 2 supports.
So they're saying it's a bit more tactical with 5v5.
You know, that was one of the first things that came out of our original playtesting, and we were just like, this is a really good direction. I mean, like I mentioned,
I don't know whether it will be enough to push the game
in that direction. You sort of have to look past the immediate problems in front of you and like, okay, we could fix those.
It will.
Like, I think we can address some of the tank imbalances and healing issues and all kinds of other stuff. But at the heart of this, which is really cool,
kind of interesting.
That's really what we've been focusing on and working through.
I'm trying to think about it. I mean, when they're playing Ryan and Winston, right? They must have predetermined these combos.
Yeah, they must have predetermined the
combos. It's more fluid than it was before. A lot of times in Overwatch, you get these really hard battle lines.
You can't think about these comps as Overwatch 1 balance.
There's just less damage incoming, and so you're able to kind of move around a little bit more. And
it feels like
you'll see it here a lot of times.
And it does put a lot more emphasis on
as hard of a space
your ability as a player.
Get through. There's still a choke in the map, and you still have to work at it. But there can be a lot more like pushing through and pulling back on the choke, and it's something that I'm like personally really excited about.
Yeah, I was going to say, how is...
Yeah, he's still got 2 fire strike. He's still got the wiggly charge. The thing is, though, I don't understand this map, so I can't tell how 5v5 has actually affected it. Because I don't even understand, like, where the attackers are going or what the fuck they're doing, you know? Like, I don't know which routes are actually effective routes.
Yeah, there's a lot more opportunity.
It's obviously going to be much more open, though, to be able to get through choke points.
When you go for a flank,
the game should be more dynamic.
Winston's got the scatter arrow.
Yeah, but I think it's just a placeholder for something. I think that scatter arrow is like a Tesla cannon or something.
He's like shooting like a little
individual ability for players to have such a large impact.
He always has a Tesla cannon, Brent.
I think
but he's shooting like a little lightning ball or something, I think.
Yeah.
Really careful to make spaces that feel good just for one hero. And sometimes we might favor particular heroes.
At the beginning, it's gonna feel like
but because of that, because we're able to make a space that
like
kind of
you've got a
feels good
teammate
for Reaper,
missing
or a space
all
that
the time.
Feels good for Pharah.
Yeah.
I think
I also do.
We'll still be able to.
That is actually amazing. I love that it's. Is that a man in a car? Are you stupid? That's a fire engine.
There's a man in the car.
Yeah, there's a man in the car. There's a man in a lot of the payloads. There's a man in Hollywood. He's just inside the limousine.
This is the slowest fire truck I've ever seen in my life.
They've died. They have burnt to death. Whoever was involved in that fire.
We planned cover objects to help protect players.
I wonder if this game is live or pre-recorded. Probably pre-recorded, right?
It's such a great point too, because we have started placing a little bit more cover in our maps.
It's a little bit chaotic.
And if you go back to some of the old maps, like
DPS is going to be so powerful in 5v5, like so unbelievably powerful.
They're gonna have to make a lot of changes.
It's just corners of buildings.
A lot of changes.
You don't have an off tank to peel, and your main tank has so many jobs to try and do.
Hello? I think
yo, your mic works.
2 fire strike charge.
No, it's fine.
Sounds fine.
I noticed something before, Jeff, when we were on with Winston. My Winston not.
Oh, wait. They're talking about the scatter arrow on Winston.
Can you explain that to us a little bit?
So yeah, I was wondering if people picked up on that. So we were first watching Winston there. This is an example of some of the tank changes we're talking about in regards to 5v5, but also a larger change we're talking about making tanks a lot more aggressive, be able to be a little more hybridy on the damage side and less just raw protection. So on Winston's side, he's ulting right now, unfortunately. You can't see it, but he can't do it while he's ulting. But his
there it
fire
was.
there, which he's doing right now, there it is. You can charge up like a condensed blast of lightning from his gun and fire it off as a single sort of like.
It didn't seem like it did that much damage
at longer range. And so he actually, the charge up is kind of interesting with it for him because you could do it while you're leaping, and so there's like theoretically more burst combos you can do where you're jumping on top of somebody, charging up in the air, and burst, release it right before you land on them, and then you get the stomp damage too, and you can shock them or do a quick melee combo.
Okay.
It's a lot more interesting things.
I mean, that sounds cool. I don't still quite understand how it works.
You shock somebody, they're getting away, you think you can finish them, and they just like...
It just looks like a tiny bit of burst for people who are outside your range.
Alternate fire shot to try to take them out on the way. It's actually interesting playing against it now, because you now are cognizant of that. So sometimes you're leaving a little earlier, like, well, I'm going to get blasted probably if I just like run away.
If I was to speculate,
to survive that.
Would probably be... Only going for the rest. Would probably be how long the queue times are.
Yes, definitely. This will 100% help queue times. 100%.
They've got the data on how that affects like player attention and shit with queue times, but like I was queuing with Nooney today and we both playing DPS and the queue time was like 9 minutes.
Yeah.
A diamond. It's like the game with like it's.
Which, by the way, that's when the game has millions of monthly active users.
Yeah.
Like, what was the most recent thing? 10 million.
It
affects it massively.
Yeah. I don't know how many players that they've got, but
this looks like, I guess, the second checkpoint.
It definitely is going to be affecting.
Whoa,
like,
this map is so beautiful.
Grand Central Station.
Bro, they're not removing off tanks. They're just kind of they're trying to.
Well, no, they are. They're removing the role of off tank.
Yeah, they're removing off, but the tanks are not being removed from the game.
No, but they're being changed. The tanks as they are currently are being removed from the game. They're changing them massively.
With Winston and Ryan, they've added more offensive capabilities by giving them 2 fire strikes, or giving Winston like the long-range damage dealing thing. And it seems like the more protective tanks, they're adding a bit of like. What they said during the stream is that they're adding a bit of hybrid, like. A bit of hybridization to it.
Yeah.
They're giving them some offensive ability. And what I imagine they're going to do with some of the off tanks is probably add some sort of protective element to them.
Yeah, they've got to. I mean, they've got to make they've got to make Zarya and D.Va much more, not just tanky, but able to accomplish more.
Yeah.
With him as well.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I mean, New York's.
What about Orisa as well? Well, I guess Orisa.
Pizza. I believe it's the water, but
look how tanky that Rhine is. That Rhine just went for a shatter and then was just fighting in the middle of them, and both of his healers were keeping him up forever.
There's a lot of armor. It's like 550 health, a ton of it is armor.
But I think they've also probably, like, what was the passive for tanks again?
It was discussed at BlizzCon Line.
I can't remember what the.
Different to kind of see
I can't remember what the.
Oh yeah, because there's the roll abilities as well, right?
I think the roll abilities probably help keep them alive.
It just makes the game feel even more.
And like all supports have built-in regen as well. Because people, I think people are worried as well about the. They're worried about with DPS being so strong. They're worried about it being pretty bad for support. Because normally you have like an off-tank to heal for you.
Yeah.
But hopefully they balance it in a way. Oh my god.
I think DPS is going to be way better though.
We've kind of upgraded the entire sound system
at the pro level.
So
yes, yeah. You mean like in terms of the impact and power they have on a game?
Absolutely.
You really
Frosty
kind
Feet
of
is
understand
fucking farming.
I
don't know who Frosty Feet is, but they are tracking like a madman.
Yeah, it's pretty good tracking.
And make different decisions.
Oh, the Quirky Turtle just got a scatter arrow kill. You know, the like Tesla range kill.
From the offense here, not bad. Not bad in their first.
Where's Mitch?
The players are so competitive. I have to say this to the stream.
Are they doing like a proper casted game later on?
And then everyone's like, put your SR in the chat. We're gonna make balance teams. Like, who's playing what? It's just, I feel like it's just the nature of Overwatch, right? Like,
Soldier's gun does sound good. The sound design has always been really good.
You lose a game, you're like,
oh, the tanks give less ult charge.
They put the Jeff Coffee Cup in.
What is the Jeff Coffee Cup?
Well, I think when there was that picture of Jeff when he went to the Starbucks on the Blizzard campus, and they spelled his name like that.
It's those
Oh, so they've made a coffee cup with Jeff, and they've made Jeff's Pizza Place or whatever as well, or whatever that was called.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Ah, that's cool.
That's a nice little homage to Jeffrey.
Homage.
So this will be an opportunity to see, like Roadhog has a solo
Hyperbole
coming in for the offensive side here. I feel like
whoa, that whiskey is called the McCree.
Whoa,
sell it.
And he takes space not with a shield,
what's
but
significant
Overwatch League opens up to liquor. Overwatch League opens up to liquor sponsorships. They unveil a whiskey called the McCree. Coincidence?
Once we started going to one tank, it was sort of the big question was like, kind of what direction are we pushing tanks now? We're trying to make Roadhog, you know, a lot more static defensively and have, you know, big barriers or something to protect his team, or do we want more the opposite?
Yeah.
Like to take the Reinhardts and the Rissas and Sigmas and actually give them some more aggression and be a little more like Roadhog Diva.
It's gonna take so long
for that latter route after playing. Like,
but I think it could be
not only is it
so good,
more fun to have that kind of extra speed and aggression, but you know, a lot of
people aren't gonna know what
people
shit's gonna be
a lot of comments in the past. When the metas get too full of barriers,
people are gonna be stuck in the past.
Honestly, even sometimes when
you just gotta move on. You gotta grow.
The one Orisa blocking you with the chain shields, and it's just like, you know, people had comments like, oh, I just feel like I'm shooting shields all the time. Which, so, like, we were definitely hearing all that, and you could see some of the balance changes we made in the past.
This is the exact consequence of complaining about double shield meta.
This is sort of an opportunity, actually, here to reduce a lot of these effects, and, you know, we still want them to be there and present and be important, and you can still block huge abilities. They still have a decent amount of health, but, you know, less than they had before. But then in response to that, we get to Rider here, you get like hit the wall right there, you can cancel it, but you can cancel your charge, and you can get two fire strikes.
They're just rolling over them.
So the canceling charge is one of those like sneaky things that seems like
the Ryan can cancel charge now.
It almost like completely changes how he plays in a lot of ways. It's actually really fun because you can it has a really fast recovery when you cancel, so you can like charge up to a group and then cancel and immediately ult and just like knock everyone down. So the fact that you can even do that, it's its own now like sort of mini game that people play where you can kind of bluff with it.
They do seem like they've increased the skill ceiling
at them, and they're trying not to get stunned. Like they don't want to fight you necessarily normally because they don't want to get pushed. I mean, it's more sometimes you can like bluff people and are running for cover and you didn't even have it, or you save it or something. So and it also just allows him to get in there and be more aggressive without sacrificing his health bar.
Yeah, it just sounds like another change.
So much responsibility on your shoulders if you are the tank player.
Also, I think people are being so upset about this. Like literally, like most of the people I talk to or see, they're just like, oh, this is so bad. They're probably, it would make so much sense if they added 6v6 in the arcade mode. So if you really wanted to, you could just play.
Oh, I'm sure they will. But that's not why people are angry. People are angry because Ranked is going to be that, because Overwatch League is going to be that, because it's going to kill the concept of the off-tank, because there's people's careers are going to die. Like, you know, we've been watching people like Fury, Choyob, and Void for years, and they will no longer exist.
To control his charge.
I mean, they will.
So you can actually
well, some of them won't.
So the charge, while you can cancel, it's also more aggressive.
What I say is though, it's like, does the dev team have a responsibility to like adhere to that plan forever?
No, I don't think they do. No. But I'm saying that's why people are angry. I'm not saying I agree with it, because I actually think that it's fine for them to do shit like this. I'm pretty happy that they went for some bold change, because I think keeping Overwatch in its current form was not cutting the mustard.
Some of those changes were, a lot of them were just silly, kind of fun, like permanently flying Sigma. But, you know, there were some changes we threw in there. I was like, let's see how people react to this. I'm curious what people think. Like, maybe this is something we could try.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure some of those off-tanks will transition to play main tank, or probably more likely DPS. But there are just less spots in the league, so some of them will necessarily not have pro careers anymore.
Settled with these changes, I realized it's how I always wanted to play Reinhardt this way, basically. You know, the charge in and
I think it's going to make for a better esport because the teams will be so stacked, and
canceling the
like individual plays will matter so much more.
You're so like
towards before it's hard to like
you're just charging into
like the best analogy I have is like FIFA Street. Like you take 4 of the best football players in the world and put them on one team. That's so much more lit than 11 fucking soccer players. And you're like, well, who's actually making a difference in 11 versus 11? If you just reduce the team size, each play is so much more impactful.
Also, off-tank was the most inscrutable role. It always has been. It's always much more difficult to tell who are great off-tank players compared to great supports, great main tanks, great DPS. Because the role was much more, I don't know, based on your team play and based on positioning and how to support other people.
There's a bunch of the enemy players.
By that logic, 1v1 is the best. Well, pros and cons, but StarCraft 2, you know, was pretty good.
I mean, 1v1 sports are incredible. They do have all of that aspect. You do lose the team play stuff. Yeah, I mean, tennis is unbelievable. But I mean, I don't want 1v1 Overwatch, obviously.
You're able to dump resources.
The sport has to be built like that in the first place. But I can't tell whether the game is going to go in that direction, though. I think if pros played this game mode, they would still play it like grouped up, playing kind of, you know, like they do normally. But that might not be how the game eventually becomes. The game might eventually become much more like flanking focused, individual, you know. Maybe, yeah, it could.
I think the most because of ultimates, it'll always be like that.
Mercy's like, I'm just going to be...
It depends what map design is like as well, man. Like, if there's a lot of different flanking routes, and you can get huge DPS value from flanking, because you can't peel for your supports very well, you might have to try and play a much more spread out style. Also, I think that would be a good thing for the game. I think Overwatch has struggled for many years with just being like grouped up team fight simulator instead of having longer battles for like map control and stuff.
One of the biggest complaints I've heard, and like this might, you know, obviously like anecdotal and small sample size, but at lower levels, if you're like in silver or that kind of skill level, it's so hard to rank up because it's 6v6. You don't know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong because it doesn't feel like you have an impact on the game. And sometimes you just lose and you don't know why, and sometimes you just win and you don't know why. With 5v5, it's so much easier to identify and feel like you have an impact.
A lot more readable.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm most excited about with the healer UI
I would agree
is
oh, they're talking about the healer UI.
On Zen, but it's on Mercy also. You see the portrait of
you see the portrait of the person you're healing.
And so it's just a lot easier to kind of figure out who you've got instead of just using something like a nameplate, you know.
And it's not off to the side, right? It's like center screen, so you're able to still kind of focus down the middle.
People were telling me that this was a fucking beta UI, and I just knew in my bones that it was not. It's just a clean, modern update. It's like all of the esports teams that are going for flat logos instead of their new shit. It's just, it's the wave of design.
We get towards the end of the map.
I think it looks really good, but I can understand how people would think that it just looks too plain. But I think it just looks straight up clean as fuck.
It's one thing I think to play, but now to like observe and be able to watch, and obviously you know the people you guys work with every day.
I don't mind it, to be honest. I don't really have strong opinions about it. People have been posting that they hate it. I don't really care.
Sure. It's not.
I mean, if it was Comic Sans and it was all fucking cartoony, maybe I would, but I don't know.
The bubbles is a total of 2 for both, so you pick and choose 1 of 1 or 2 of 1. Yeah, I know. It's the same way that it was in the experimental patch for Zarya. I think they've gone in clearly with some clear goals, which is they've identified the ills of Overwatch. Too much visual clutter, the problem with the queue times, and they've tried to solve that by just removing a person from the battlefield and reducing visual clutter in terms of the design of the both the UI and the abilities too. It solves those two, or at least it helps.
I think the queue time thing, though, is probably just a happy accident.
You think? I do not think that's a happy accident. I think that's one of their main goals here.
Just very slightly.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I like to think that they also just wanted to switch shit up. They don't like the way that the game played as well, because thinking about metas that we had where
AD spam a lot of times.
They've always had issues kind of differentiating because the off tank is not. It's never been a role in the game that's been labeled. They never had that intention of playing.
Wait, are they talking about movement? Wait, give me a sec. What is Jeff talking about here?
Just notch it down just a little bit, so you can't really feel it as much in first person, but it's kind of one of those.
They've lowered ADAD
spam for a while. Even just like I think it was like last week or earlier this week, we started bringing up a thread again. Like, do we want to keep this? Actually, this has been around for a while. Is everyone still happy with this? So that's just an example.
This is very
like,
controversial. Like among the design team, there's a lot of back and forth.
They've altered movement acceleration,
but I think what
so that you can't just like
go keep a change like that in the game. I think what it speaks to is the amount of systems and how deep we're looking at. Like,
I thought it was weird, but it also made shots really cool.
Yeah, it seems like no stone on PvPs being left like
you know, like the people who can aim in Overwatch are so good to be able to hit people that have movement like that.
I want to bring somebody in from the community real quick. I can welcome in Stylosa. Dude, what do you think?
I'm in a disagreement because purely, like, you play games where you have that.
I was a little bit skeptical when I first heard about 5v5.
I disagree because I think when you do the instant ADAD, there's almost an element of fucking RNG. It feels like sometimes if you're shooting.
Yes,
the models can contort to such ridiculous angles, one after the other, that sometimes it does feel like pure RNG when you're trying to shoot at someone.
Yeah.
So like when you slow down a movement like that, it like makes it easier to shoot people. But
I like it because I'm crap at the game. But what I'm thinking about is that at the top level, it reduces your ability to get value out of, like, I guess mostly DPS, but also supports. Like, there's a lot of times where this is just going to buff DPS diving your supports in the backline as well, because you can't fucking dodge on Anna to be able to get away from people. And also Widowmaker, as long as they still keep the ability for Widowmaker to one-shot people, if you reduce that kind of ability to move with the movement acceleration, it's buffed and it's already a really powerful hero. It's hard to balance something like Widowmaker.
Yeah.
Because you can one-shot from any distance. Oh shit, they're talking about push.
We have a lot of fun playing this thing. I think the interesting thing about push to me is from the outside, it sort of looks like it's a riff on payload, but there's something about having this robot move back and forth in the map that makes this very special. I almost think of push more as a moving control point or a match of control more than a match of payload. And you'll kind of see it. The mode can be really flanky. So there's a lot of other heroes in here that I think can get play in push. And a lot of that has to do with just the bi-directional nature of that robot in the map, and also because of how quickly it moves.
Yeah, and if you've never seen push before, there's a robot in the middle. Both teams will come out and kind of fight for it. And then once you get control, you can start pushing your barricade towards the opponent's spawn. It's the name push, guys. Stylosa, you played it.
Yeah, no,
at BlizzCon. How'd you find it then?
I mean, it seems like such a long time ago when I played this at BlizzCon. Yeah, it was pretty hectic. I mean, I will say though, the teams were horrendously unbalanced at BlizzCon. And I mean, I think I had like Seagull, XQC, Fran, and me were playing against random people. It was a massacre. I'll be honest, I was just AFK. It didn't really matter. But yeah, it was.
I didn't get a chance to play it at BlizzCon.
I can't wait to see it. I just, hey, any Overwatch 2 news, give it me. I'll consume that stuff.
I couldn't be bothered to wait in the line.
How do you guys think it feels now in 5v5? Because the last time
you guys jumped the line.
BlizzCon,
I don't know. I think I just wanted to go back home and drink.
Was 6-on-6. Does it play any different? You guys feel, especially on Toronto?
A little bit. So push has always been
I don't know,
maybe our most hectic mode or our most dynamic game mode. And part of the reason for that is the way these maps are designed is we have a very sort of like wavy path that the robot travels on. So the objective is kind of always moving back and forth. And then we have a lot of very direct routes across the map that the players can take. And because of that, it allows players to take a lot of shortcuts, circle around the enemy team, and it creates a lot of these flanking opportunities. With 5 players, there's just one less person you kind of have to kind of keep in your mind's focus and kind of like worrying about where they're going to show up at any time. And so it's settled down a little bit. I still think it has that dynamic nature that we've always loved about push. It's just a little bit easier to kind of understand.
fast paced. I think that's kind of the way I would put it. Like you have a lot of the buildings you can go through, different types of routes you can take.
Movement from AD. I'm excited. Because coming from like tier 2, where projectile aim was so cool to watch with air shots and shit like that, and I think it makes projectile aim more rewarding.
Yeah, maybe. I'm. Monkey Meatloaf, thank you for the donation of just what I assume are Chewbacca noises in my head that I can't skip. That is now stopping me from being able to hear anything about this map. There we go. Thank you.
We had the map at BlizzCon. It was definitely a work in progress, and it's still a work in progress now. But
I read the Jane take. It's idiotic.
Additional polish and art resources into the map since then.
Wait, I haven't seen the juice.
It's unreal.
All the maps just look so good.
No.
If you think 5v5 has anything to do with game balance and not with the Overwatch League saving money, boy, do I have a bridge to sell you. As if the Overwatch League could dictate that. As if that's a big enough size of the pie to make any difference. I mean, that is just Jane. I mean, that is just lost in the sauce, kind of.
I feel like than both of those, and just you take so many different fights all over the map.
Is it supposed to be a joke? I don't know. That's really not very. I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell.
Like about Assault is that you can, you have.
It should be a joke,
like battles,
but it's not funny, so I don't know.
I mean, maybe even be okay taking a loss there, But like, this you definitely get a winner.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like game modes where the actual objective and the mechanics help pace out the speed of gameplay. And it was really hard for us to do that with 2CP. You can have incredibly
they've changed Tracer. Look at Tracer on the top right.
Really quick blowouts.
Yeah, that's all.
It just came down to what the two
sorry?
were doing.
Like a bunch of it, like Reinhardt, Genji. Look at Genji. Lucio.
Yeah, Lucio's. Oh yeah. But Tracer looks so different.
With push, we have
I'm not running an advert. I'm not doing that to people. Shut up, chat.
Helping to
I'll do it later.
Of the match.
Just give me Overwatch 2 into my veins.
I really want to play push. I'm really excited for this game mode.
So what have they done for D.Va?
I don't know.
So yeah, it is pretty fast.
Well, she has 300 armor here.
Some of these
that's different, right?
Poor Lumpy gets taken out right off the rim. Lumpy was going on one of those flanks.
Also, a 1 second defense matrix cooldown. Isn't that normally 2?
The bot unlock right away.
Yeah, I think
it takes about 30 seconds for it to unlock, and the reason we do that is we don't want a team to think that there's a certain amount of pressure, or to have all this pressure to get to it as quickly as possible. We want you to be able to be strategic with the way that you approach the bot in the middle of the map, and
D.Va looks like she is not going to be good.
So we can see the robot. He's
got a name, Quirky
right?
Turtle just hacked.
Yeah, his name is TWO.
Yeah, I don't think D.Va would be good.
That's good. We see some Genji.
I can't wait to see.
You see like all the buildings.
They're just gonna be like, we need to find a way to make D.Va better.
Up above to the side,
give her
I think
two stealth
you can
drops.
definitely see that, like, fast paced. It looks way more like you can, as a DPS player, just kind of go off to the side, make a play, try and make it. You see here they're going right for the supports.
Yep. Yeah, and the map, there's still a main path in push.
Yeah.
And it's really important for
this
us
map
to have
is extremely open.
in all of our map types. But
oops,
ways to get around that.
Did you play this
a lot of these opportunities.
at BlizzCon?
No, I never did.
I did.
Can't blame him.
There's actually a lot of flanks.
It looks like there's an enormous amount of flanks. Like recontesting the payload portion seems like it's gonna be much easier because there's so many different angles that the recontesters can come from. You almost need to like keep one person on the payload and then just bait them and keep really good positions.
What I played back at BlizzCon all those years ago. Just with
I live for people jumping to conclusions before playing the game.
Space, I think, that operates.
Like radical conclusions.
Like, I'm somebody who I played DPS. Like,
just the hot takes in my chat.
That maybe
not even hot takes. It's just, I don't know. It feels.
Be able to kind of like play Tracer and go off to the side.
This paragraph that's been written is so dramatic. Gutted, ... The meta, almost by mathematical definition, will be staler. One tank will be the best. And that's what we're going to see every map. I mean, I think that's a fair point, to be fair. Like, it might get to the point where one tank might be the best. Like, there's one meta.
But, you know, like everything's work in progress.
Oh, yeah.
Typically, we've seen, like, I think that's what they're talking about. It's like,
but there are more main tank options.
Yeah.
So therefore, there are more compositional archetypes.
I'm not done. Ryan Zarya, gone. Monkey Diva, gone. Tank peeling, all gone. Doesn't feel decisions made for current players. It's what can we do to max profits, not max quality of the game. I think there's some parts of that I think that are quite valid, but I just think that you need to play the game before you can.
Your health bar can get really colorful.
I don't know. Trying to spell the downfall of it before it's even out. You know?
The also, even if you believe that they are incentivized purely by profit or like by increasing their player base, that almost by definition means that more people are enjoying it. You know, if you have a larger player base, even if those aren't, even if concept now, you know, it's not a terrible thing to go for. It's not always going to be the perfect thing to go for. But if you're aiming for a larger player base and you can attract a larger player base, even if the hardcore people aren't as interested, you could argue from a
kind of nonsense anyway, honestly. So now
from like a big picture standpoint, that's still good for the game.
You know, you see somebody with green, and you can see like, okay, that's not, you know, that's over healthy. It's either going to drain, or if I shoot through it, they can't be healed and stuff like that. So it kind of helps clarify all that.
This game mode looks like it's gonna last forever, but there is a timer, isn't
there? Was
there?
like a circle. So is there like
did anyone pay attention to what the timer was at the beginning? Like, what's the max game time for this map?
Yeah, it does. So the robot starts in the middle of the map, and it pushes those
7 minutes. Okay.
Like those.
So 7 minutes plus overtime. That's actually not very long.
You can use those to kind of like in world see what your high watermark is. And if the robot's able to push it to the checkpoint, it will unlock a forward spawn room for the team that was able to do it. You can kind of see it just off to the left here behind Reinhardt.
If you have a bad main
the
tank,
attacking team can push it over there. They'll unlock that spawn point.
Actually,
and it gives them a big advantage in order to kind of
not on a map like this, because it seems pretty self-sufficient for DPS.
And then I assume when they're when 2 starts moving the other direction, I
guess it could be brutal if you get a bad tank on your team. And again, that's the same now. If you have a bad main tank, you just fucking lose anyway.
Yep, there is an additional detail there. It's TWO has to be pushed back to the middle of the map before you lose your forward spawn room. And we actually
tank SR is going to be more accurate because it's 5 versus 5, and you can't get carried anymore.
Could just move back and forth.
Wait, they just explained how forward spawns work. You need to. The robot has to go all the way back to the very middle of the map before you stop getting forward spawns.
By forcing him to return to the middle.
Yeah, that's a good call. I can imagine if that was the case now, yeah, you would have, like, if I spawned this 1 second, I would spawn close, and then, like, Stylosis spawns the next second, and he's far away.
Yep. And I mean, that happens in Overwatch, you know, but it was just, it was way too blatant.
This double bubble Zarya is sick.
She's incredible. I love her.
Zarya seems pretty decent.
Checked it in.
Like, Zarya seems like
is her damage ramped up?
You could do enough to be able to make her work.
I mean, yeah. So you have the same bubbles you had before, but they're both using shared charges. So yeah, we found that because this increased flexibility in how you use it, she tends to be at higher charge more often. I mean, this is a good example, I guess. Yeah. But
so yeah, with 2 healers that are only focusing on pocketing the Zarya,
what was your average energy?
And the fact that you can't bait out a personal bubble as easily because she has a second, I could see Zarya being pretty viable. I think that they've done a decent job.
I mean, as somebody who loves to play Zarya, speedy rogue. I also can imagine the people that I would play with on Zarya would just automatically double bubble themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the only tank that I've seen so far that looked like it might not be good or fun is Diva.
But then you start to think, like, actually,
it seems like Winston looks possibly more fun.
I think if I double,
although it might not be because you don't have the off tank to be able to save you to play in some circumstances. But
yeah, not just applying
Ryan looks really fun
to yourself, but you could,
Zarya looks really
because
fun.
They share the charge. You could theoretically like
Eva.
Again, G-Blade,
Ryan might suck. I don't know, man. Ryan looks pretty...
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool.
Really well.
I don't think people are
so many different ways.
properly estimating how big these changes are going to be to the tanks. Like, the changes to make it to Reinhardt alone, like, they're massive. He's just going to be played differently.
Yeah.
Now.
Until we get our hands on it, I don't think there's too much.
Yeah, it's hard
to say concretely. It's like really hard to try and piece together all the different variables and changes. Like 5v5, balance changes, role changes. So like each individual role has buffs and changes to them as well.
How does the rule here work? I guess they have to push all the way to the end.
And on top of that, like the little tiny things that they mentioned that they kind of like brushed off, like the movement changes. All of this is going to like add together to form a completely different experience with the game. Like it's going to feel very different. Even though it's probably going to be feeling like Uncanny Valley, where it's like there's so many similarities, but it's ultimately going to be a very different thing put together.
So at this point,
new heroes as well. How many new heroes are they releasing?
Oh, they're gonna be releasing some.
Yeah, they need to stay near.
Like the game is gonna be crazy when it releases. It's gonna be so different from anything that we played. Really.
I know that people hate change and yet simultaneously want change, but I think that making it feel significantally different is necessary. I don't know whether like this change was necessary, but I do think making some significant change was.
Because if you
Reaper clutch!
You're left in a scenario where,
right down to the wire.
Like, if they released the game 6v6 and they didn't really do too much to the game in terms of radically changing up the PvP, and it was purely just PvE, I mean, people would just like treat Overwatch as a laughing stock.
Yeah, I think
like there's already
your point. Like
there's always this
when you think about like
pervasive idea that Overwatch 2 is just like a DLC update.
Yeah,
but they needed to do something big to change things up, to shake things up.
Yeah,
in my opinion at least.
I agree. I don't think that you had to go this direction with 5v5, but it's one of the availables.
It seems to solve a lot of problems they would have.
Now, here's a question: when are they transitioning to 5v5?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they are going to have to sync it up with Overwatch League. Because Overwatch 1 is going to be the same as Overwatch 2.